We took this week off recording a podcast for Local Love, so check out this classic episode from last summer. So it's Dan from Art Boutiki in San Jose. Enjoy the show.
Don't forget to follow us on social media for beautiful food and inspiration.
Welcome to Local Love. We do the show live every Tuesday from 9 to 11 p.m. Pacific and beyond into red light. Go to our website, echoplexmedia.com, to find out more about all of our goings on. We're going to get right to it. I have Dan, the proprietor of the Art Boutiki, with me. How you doing, Dan?
I'm doing great. How you doing tonight?
Pretty good. Pretty good.
Thank you for having me on.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. So I have the web page up for Art Boutiki here, and I'm going to bring it up on the screen. while that's up on the screen, can you tell just like a 30,000 foot view of what Art Boutiki is and how you came to be the proprietor of such a place?
Well, it's a much bigger view than that, I guess. I'm glad I made myself a drink.
Cheers.
So the basics of it is Art Boutiki is a venue. It's a music venue. It is also a comic book store, and it sprung forth from the roots, my particular roots of owning a comic book store and then publishing comic books. When we were located in another space in downtown, and when the recession in 2008 hit, I dialed back a lot of my operation. Was going to leave the spot, but my landlord at the time made me a really sweet deal to stay because he knew he wasn't going to be able to find another tenant. So I stayed, but then I ended up with all this extra space, and I was letting like basically high school bands and my friends come in and play, and then we put on a show, or I let someone put on a show, and then the next thing I know, people are calling me and saying like, how do I book a show at your spot, which didn't even have a name at the time. And so at that same moment, we were fixing up the front to be an art gallery so we could be part of the art walk. And I made up the name Art Boutiki, and so I decided, well, we're just going to make live music part of this whole deal. So it was an art gallery, it was a comic book store, it was a comic book publishing company, it was sort of a venue, an all ages venue. So it all just sprung forth. It wasn't like any part of any grand plan. It wasn't until we got kicked out of that building because they tore it down.
I thought there was going to be a more fun story than that.
Nope, they tore it down.
Was that your fault?
It was not my fault. When I moved in, I spent 13 years total, only 2.5 were we doing live music. But I spent 13 years total in that space. And when I moved in, the guy told me, he gave me a 5-year lease. He was like, but I'm not going to give you an option to extend. We'll extend year by year because eventually we want to tear this down and build an office building. I'm like, yeah, right. So whatever. But he came to me one day and was like, yep, it's happening. You got to go. I'm like, well, there you have it. So, and then we found the space that we were in Ray Street now, and I wasn't even going to continue doing live music. And I found that space, and I'm like, this could be a pretty awesome space if we fix it up right. So let's see what happens if we do it on purpose. So that's kind of the sort of the entire view of the whole thing.
Yeah, I didn't know the story. I've only know you by face and to give you money for a beer in the past. So, and
yep,
you guys stock great beer there. By the way, I hate it when I go to a place and the beer sucks. So I saw the fridge. I was like, yes, this is my spot. I played Sweet High because I think the first time I went to your spot was one of their shows at Art Boutiki, the one on race. I don't remember what the theme of the show is. I think maybe Periscope played with them, and I was just like super impressed. Like the first thing I noticed when I went in there is that someone in there is like me because the sound in there is fucking pristine.
Yeah, that's sort of our thing. There's a lot that goes into trying to do something like this, and you mentioned the beer, right? So we had to work against the disadvantages that we have. So we weren't going to be a full bar. We weren't going to be a bar. We're not going to be open till 2 a.m. It's not a night spot. It's not downtown. We can have beer, but because of the sort of requirements for putting beer on tap, very complicated and expensive. So we only have bottled and canned beer. But my decision basically is like for the beer, then we've got to have a really good selection, and it's got to be local or at least Northern California beer for the most part. I mean, you can still buy Coors Light if that's what floats your boat. Or I mean,
if you grab a banger at another bar that's from Colorado and it's available, you might pick that up too, right?
Right, exactly, right. So, and with the quality of the sound, again, we had not a lot of advantages in terms of like people needed to have a reason to come other than just coming hanging out and drinking because they can do that anywhere, and or what have you. And so everybody that works in the spot, led by my son, who's sort of the lead sound man, we took it upon ourselves, like, this place needs to sound great, because we want to be able to program a wide variety of music. It's not just throwing a lot of people in there and turning it all up to 11 to a group of people that don't care. People who come to our spot, they don't even know how much they appreciate the quality of the sound there until they've been in it. And then it's like yourself, it's like, oh man, this is good. I had one performer's father come to me after her show and said, I've never been able to hear her sing. Like, I've heard her sing, but I've never been able to hear her. And it's because the guys behind the board and the way the whole room is set up, and they invested a ton of money in insulating the place and making sure it was as dead as it could be, so that we could control the sound and it wasn't just all echo and stuff slamming off of hard surfaces and stuff like that. So a lot went into it, because that's the product, is what's on that stage. So it's got to be good.
So you mentioned some of the challenges with, it seems like you have a commitment to being an all ages venue, and maybe we'll start there. I know that doing any kind of business where you serve food and alcohol is a huge pain in the ass in general, because I have a few friends who are restaurateurs,
Mm-hmm.
and I've definitely heard it from them about how tough a business it is. But then you add like the element of music or entertainment and all ages, and like what were like some unexpected challenges you faced doing that? Maybe with the city of San Jose, with entities that you had to deal with as a function of doing your business.
Well, I found it very easy in a lot of ways. It's like, there are a lot. When you set yourself up to do a certain thing a certain way, right? It's like, if you're going to be a place and you're going to go in and say, I'm going to be open until 2 a.m. and serve hard liquor, then people are going to come in and scrutinize what you're doing, and you're going to get visited a lot by, undercover of every various law enforcement, including the ABC, which people don't realize that alcohol beverage control officers are indeed legal law enforcement. So, but you say like, hey, this is going to be an all ages spot. We're selling food. We're selling beer and wine. There's no hard liquor. We're not open till 2. We're open till 10, 11 at the latest. When we kill the loud stuff. We present ourselves in a different way. Even our liquor licenses for an eating and drinking establishment, and it's the only beverage permit that the state gives out that the city doesn't also require a conditional use permit on. So there are more restrictions on what we can do, but the core of our business is presenting the music, which is why, everything has a ticket. Whereas, in some other places it might be free, because we don't have the revenue stream from food and beverage that other places do, because we lack a full bar and we lack a full kitchen. It's more of a snack bar with beer. We serve just enough food to be able to qualify for the 47 for the liquor license. But everything else is like, the biggest challenge. When we started way back when we were downtown, and I was letting my kids play, and they were in high school, and I expected that we would be an all ages venue in a comic book store, and a lot of kids would come out, and that was not the case. When we started putting on shows, it was adults. It was people coming out. It was people coming out with their kids. It was people coming out. I noticed that we had a lot of, women and girls that were there older, not like super old, but, not in high school either. And, if you're a good businessman, you start talking to your customers and saying like, well, what brought you here tonight? And this is like, I know the band and they play it, they play all over the place, but this is the one place, because at the old place, we didn't even sell beer or wine. It was like, there aren't going to be any drunks here. I'm not going to get hassled. I can listen to the band. And I can go into the comic shop if somebody's like giving me a hard time, and we had acquired a reputation for having a low tolerance for nonsense. So yeah, it's just like people felt safe coming there, and they felt it was because it's a family place. We give off that family vibe, and and hopefully that kind of transferred over to the people who came to watch shows. It's like nobody's like, again, there's plenty of places to go and drink a lot of liquor and not care about the music, but our place is just a little different. And but I was not prepared for that. I really thought we were going to be. I mean, we started going when Nickel City was like sort of one of the big spots in town for all ages music, and I thought it was going to be like that, and it really wasn't. Because the kids, want to sneak in booze and smoke weed inside the venue, and we wouldn't put up with that either. I drink booze and smoke the weed in the venue, but that's not allowed by any other standard.
You'd mentioned Nickel City.
I need to ask you something real quick, because I will not. It is very important. Is this show F word approved? Because at some point,
depends on the F word, but you don't strike me as the kind of guy who would use the wrong F word. So
I use them all, but I know what you're talking about. No. Yeah. Not that F word. No.
Yeah. You can swear on my show. Yeah.
What are the
This show's unlike your venue, our show is for adults.
It's for adults. Okay.
I mean, your venue's for adults too, but people, there's like a little thing like on our channel that says that, this is for adults. This is 18 and over content, not like 18 and over content, but this is like,
right.
There's a lot of kids on Twitch. So, it's good of them to actually do that. Not a lot of kids obey it, but maybe their parents start going through the channels.
Right. Well, I always like to ask,
I should have told you. I should have told you that it's super loose and that you can swear on the show. And
it's fine. I made a mistake back when I was bigger in comics, and I was doing a college radio show with someone, and I just, I said fuck, and the guy was like, "Whoa, Jesus Christ, you can't say that," and I'm like, oh sorry, dude, so now I make it a point: is this F word approved, or
Oh yeah. Yeah, I think actually that's another thing we need to add to our document. That's like, you can say swear words, you may not say slurs.
Okay. Yeah.
In fact, if you say enough slurs on my show, next time I see you at the venue, you can catch me outside. Like,
we're not a slur kind of place.
No. Certainly.
I can tell you, you know what? I honestly, so one of my background as a human here is that I'm a first generation American. My parents were both immigrants, and it's weird because I'm a really old guy and I speak reasonably good English and all that, but I'm a non-native English speaker. My parents were Italian, and growing up in around here in the early '60s, and being Italian was people would call you names, and it was like, okay, I gained a sensitivity to that, and it was like the first really offensive Italian joke I ever heard was told to me by my 6th grade teacher in class in front of people. And it's like that today would have gotten that guy not just fired, but blackballed from ever teaching again. And that was just a normal occurrence for me.
I think the kids call it canceled.
Yeah, well, whatever they want to call it. The guy didn't get canceled. But it was funny because, I'm in San Jose, a lot of white folks around here. So the only people who were kind to me were the kids, the people of color that were in school, because we were all getting picked on for things that we really didn't have any control over, right? And one of my best friends in grade school was black, and we're way off the subject here, but I'll just finish this story. It's like at my 20th high school reunion, I ran into him and we were chatting, and he says to me, we're catching up and stuff. And he goes, "Wow, man, your English is really good." And I can't believe you're the same kid. And it's like, yeah, whatever you learn, right? And he just looks at me, he goes, "I'm still black." Like, yeah, I get that. So
that's a good fucking story. Well, we'll go off topic if all your stories are that good. That's for sure.
Yeah, you know what? My off topic is way more interesting than anything I have to say about anything. So I've been promoting myself all day for this by saying, "Let me bore you to." I think the last post on Facebook I put about this was that dying of boredom, dying of COVID is more painful than listening to me drone on. So
there's a whole rest of the show around here that you threw under the bus, but everybody gets a mulligan.
I was talking about myself, but I don't know.
I'm just playing with you, man. So you before the comic shop that you brought up first, I have so many questions now because let's go. Okay, so you had mentioned the comic shop and that you were producing a comic book. Call me a bad interviewer. I didn't go take a look. Are you still producing comic books?
Yes, absolutely. That was my major living my publishing company started in the 80s. And so it is now 30. Oh crap! This is 35 years for me, and I didn't even realize it. Yeah, I mean that was a major living for me. I was as an independent comics publisher, and I published a lot of people who. Most people you've never heard of, but I mean a lot of people who went on to do a lot of big things afterwards. I think the most noteworthy would be Jonan Vasquez, who produced. He did a TV show for Nickelodeon called Invader Zim.
Oh, I know that show.
Yeah, everybody knows that show. I published him, and they discovered him as a result of the comics that I published. And he was still working on those comics when they made the deal to do Zim. But so that's just an example. But I mean, like other examples, there's a guy named Gene Lewin Yang who, when I met him, he was a teacher at Bishop O'Dowd in Oakland, teaching computer science, and then he made his success after he was published by me. But he went on to get a MacArthur Genius Grant, and that's like somebody giving you $1 million because you're really smart. It's like
I'm already really mad at the people at MacArthur for not doing that for me. Who do I write? Who do I write the Dear Ass Faces letter to?
You were like, those guys would have never found him if it weren't for me. How about that? Where's my cut? I'm waiting for my check, Gene. Thank you. By the way, just a small little smidgen would be nice. Thanks.
That's super cool. Like, I didn't know that about you until you introduced yourself on the show. Like I said, I'm a bad interviewer. Well, no, but I also like to kind of go in fresh because like, then I'm like more where the audience is at. Right.
Sure.
Were you I have to assume the comic book spot that you had before the Art Boutiki was much smaller. Is that?
Yeah, I mean, I started. My first comic book store, which goes back to 1978, was basically the size of a living room. Actually, might have been my living room. I don't know, but and then my dad owned a TV store on Bascom Avenue, and I took over a little part of it and ran a comic shop there. And then I stopped because I was going to go to college. And then I started again because I was making decent money. I'm not publishing, but just selling comic books. So let me try this for a little bit again. And I reopened my store. And then it was a few years into that. Then I just said, I wonder, I'm gonna try and make my own comic book. It was about the time that Ninja Turtles came out, and so I was like, well, those guys, whatever, are they that smart? So I did a comic book called Samurai Penguin. And it still stands to this day as being one of the single best-selling comics I've ever done. Of course, nobody remembers it or cares. But
is there I know I'm interrupting you, but is this stuff like available on the web, or is there a place somebody could go look at some of your old work?
No, some of it. I mean, so the thing that I kind of learned. Or that I leaned to in the beginning, and I still stand by it, is that I felt, that creators should own their own work. Most companies would come in and own a piece of it, a portion of it, or all of it, in exchange for whatever it is that you got, or like own the rights in perpetuity to that work, that you did for them. And then you could go on and do other things, but they'd still own your work. But I felt like creator ownership should be just that. You should own your work. You should own it all the time. As a result of that, I actually don't have the rights to most of the stuff I've ever published anymore. Only Johnny the Homicidal Maniac, which is Jonan Vasquez's work, and he's kept his catalog with me. And not because he couldn't make more money.
You're not. I don't even follow comics, and I know what the fuck Johnny the Homicidal Maniac is. That was like a person you were working with?
That's the guy that created Invader Zim. That's Jonan Vasquez.
Wow.
There you go. Look at that. I stunned you.
Well, no, I'm just not like deep in this culture. I've known people who are into comic books and stuff. Like if you're like, I'm a different kind of nerd. I'm like an audio nerd. I'm a DJ. I like Linux and like free software. And you end up walking in the same circles as a lot of people who like comic books and Star Trek if you end up like in that space, right?
Yep.
So, but what I was going to ask is when you moved into the space you're in now on Race, it's a big space. And it seems like in addition to the space being a lot of square feet, it seems like also I have to imagine you made a significant investment when you moved in there to making the space what it is now. And I'm just wondering, like, were you nervous? Were you afraid? Were you worried?
I was. I felt reasonably confident that it would be worth it, and I really felt that we could fill a need that San Jose had for a reasonably high quality experience for music. I may have overestimated that. I don't regret the money that I invested in the place. It was a lot. I mean, I put insulation in every square inch of that place, not just the ceiling, but the walls, just to make sure that we had, that we didn't have this really live, harsh sounding room, and a lot of the other investments, they have come over time, but one of the biggest thing was the electricity, because we got in there and there was electricity coming into the building, but it wasn't spread out very evenly. It was all towards the back where there were some offices. So we had to bring electricity out to the front and make it to code and all that. So that was very expensive. Putting in new lights, knocking down some walls, and it was a lot of money. It was probably not worth the investment. It's been 8 years now, 9 almost, and I can't honestly say that. Like I said, I don't have any regrets, but I can't honestly say that it was worth the money that went into it. And on top of that, we've continued to morph it over time. If you walked in, if the only time you'd ever walked into Art Boutiki was our first show on Ray Street, and you walked in today and you knew what you were looking at, you would realize that it's not even remotely the same place in terms of the gear that's there, the sound that's there. Everything, has gone through major improvements. 3 years ago, we did another, I don't know, it was like $15,000 or $20,000 investment in the sound. We got a digital PreSonus 32 channel mixer. Our previous was 24, and it was still an analog board. These Spanish speakers that we flew from a truss and all that, all the stuff that just comes from having people around you that said, like, it would really be good if we did this. And so we just did it. And it's just a little hard because, we've maybe put a little bit more money into the quality of the sound, and people like you appreciate it, but I think some people don't always really appreciate what the effort was that went into it.
Well, anybody who's been gigging for a long time is going to show up there and really appreciate it,
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, like, my experience is just plugging a left and a right into something and hoping the speakers aren't blown. But when I show up somewhere and there's a nice fucking sound system, I'm like, oh shit, there's a nice fucking sound system here.
Well, it goes beyond that. I mean, like I said, everyone that runs sound at Art Boutiki is a musician, has been a musician. They know when they've been on a stage, they know what they want, and they know what that person on stage needs, And the biggest thing that we get, because the guy on stage, they don't know what it sounds like to the audience. All they know is like, wow, I can hear myself. Maybe for the first time ever, I can truly hear myself.
Well, I mean, ideally what you want on stage is like a mirror of the experience of the audience, as close to that as you can possibly fucking get, right? Like,
yeah,
like it's super important.
it is important. I think it's important because if the musicians can't hear themselves, they can't play. And it's like in some cases it really isn't that big of a deal. But in other cases, you bring in, like you talk about when we bring in, sort of higher end jazz guys, you bring in a group, say like the Bad Plus that we had a few years back, or a Knee-Body, and these are people that play really big venues, and we're getting them because we're lucky. And they get up there and, you go like a 3-band rock show, we're basically putting maybe 10 minutes into each band's sound check because we got to get them on stage and get them off. But a band like the Bad Plus that comes in, or anybody that's going to be on the stage and it's the only act, their sound check, I mean, they'll be written into the writer, 90-minute sound check. It's like we'll get through it quicker because our guys know what they're doing. And the guys on stage aren't constantly asking for please change this and please change that, or how do we do this? It's like everybody knows how our stuff works. Everybody knows how to put the best sound quality back up onto that stage, so that when musicians are playing, they don't have to worry about hearing themselves. They can play and they know what they sound like, and they know what that sound that's going out through the mains is going to be good.
Well, fuck yeah. I'm real glad you're doing it over there. And I'm glad that like the attention to detail has been paid. Yeah. What I want to do right here, if it's okay with you, I'd like to get myself another drink, go to the bathroom. We're going to rock a jam while we do that. If you need to take a break too, and then we'll come back and talk about, what it's been like owning and running a venue under COVID.
All right, sure. It sounds great. I'm almost out of rum, so yeah, I'll go get myself another drink and I'll come right back.
I have expert. Well, yeah, we'll have a little bit of time. I think I'm going to play a Sakura track. She did a performance at your venue before she took off and left for Austin.
She did. It's funny because Sakura, yeah, she played a live stream. Or online concerts, as we prefer to say. She played one of our online shows before she left for Austin, but then she ironically was one of the last live shows with an audience. She played that week right before shutdown came around, and people were just like, COVID wasn't really even a word. It was all coronavirus, it's like whatever. And it was all in China. It was a Chinese thing, it was not coming here. So a week later it was here. So, but yeah, she double-edged sword there, both a online show and a live show, that were significant for us.
Fantastic. This is the first song we ever got from her and the first original we ever heard from her way back when we heard her play at Sofa. This is Imagination by Sakura, and we'll be back in a couple of minutes with fresh drinks and maybe fresh brains.
All right.
Something I would regret loving you. What a silly thing to do. I believed in all the little lies that you told me. Had
Imagination by Sakura, and we're back. We're here with Dan from Art Boutiki.
How's it going? What'd you get to drink? What's your drink?
Tonight I'm having this, it's a Morgan Territory Brewery Solo Rider. It's a red ale. Oh, well, hold on. Which camera? Oh, you're on that camera. It's kind of red and dark in here. You can't really see. It's pretty good.
Yeah, you got this whole Johnny Fever vibe going on there. Actually, that would be Venus Flytrap, actually, from WKRP, did on the old TV show and at the radio station. Venus Flytrap did his show, and the room was bathed in red.
We did it because it's like the red light district. We felt a little sexy.
There you go. Oh, because we can't. I haven't sworn yet, so I would say fucking cool. That's good. There you have it.
So I wanted to kind of get into what it's like trying to run a venue when no one can come to the venue.
Well, I mean, we're not really running a venue, I guess. I don't know what we're doing. It was weird. It's weird. It's beyond weird. It's painful. And we were just talking about all the money that was invested in the place, right? And to make the onstage and the in-house experience stellar, and I get to walk in every day for now over a year and look up and see none of it being used as it was intended to be used. But I mean, I always try to remain, it's like, okay, things in my life has always been an evolution of something, or evolved from something else. It's like the whole comic book thing. My publishing comics, my reading comics, it stems from the fact that if it weren't for comic books, I wouldn't be able to read, because when I was a very small child, and I was failing because I had two immigrant parents who barely spoke English themselves, and they can't help me. And so my teacher in first grade says, just give him anything, he'll read anything. So it was all Peanuts books and comic books, and it got me reading at a level beyond, when I was in second grade or in third grade, I was reading at a sixth grade level. So just because of comics. So everything is an evolution of that. And so we tried for a while to do the whole takeout food, and because the ABC loosened up their laws and you could sell beer to go and stuff like that. But and people at first were very, very generous in buying that stuff, but that tailed off pretty quickly because, let's face it, you're not coming to Art Boutiki for the food. And, $6 for tater tots and $8 for beer, it's just not going to fly. But I knew from once we were kind of a month into the whole thing that I wanted to start a streaming show, and that I wanted the venue to exist in the virtual world for however long it took, because I wanted to keep our name out in front of people. I wanted to give musicians a feeling of hope that they had a place to play, even if there wasn't necessarily much money in it. I wanted to give people who were our supporters, just a reminder that, hey, we're still doing this. This is the whole point of doing this music thing, was to present this music to people, and we're still accomplishing our mission. And it took us a while, because much in that sort of same vein, where we kind of felt like in designing the sound that we had to provide great sound, and I knew we could provide great sound over the internet, but I wanted the visuals to match. And so I pointed at everybody in the room, all the folks that work on the sound part. This is like, you're all going to become experts. We're all going to become experts at this. And it took us a while, because we didn't want to just go out there. We didn't want to be one of those places that was rolling up stuff on their iPhones and saying, like, look at our live stream. We wanted it to be an actual program that looked good, sounded good, and made the venue look good, and made the artists look good, and made it something that people like. Why would you come here and then split your money with us when you could just do it from your couch and keep it all? Maybe because you have some sense of loyalty to Art Boutiki, and that's great too. A few people did that, especially early on, because they had no idea. But now it's like, we've gotten pretty good at this. And actually, I'm gonna be immodest. We've gotten very good at it. And that very good thing and that immodest thing comes from the fact that if you were to if you watch it, it's like, oh, this is a high quality presentation. And if you walk in and you look at the Frankenstein's monster that we've created to do these things, because we don't have a professional video setup, we have just one that we've cobbled together from borrowed parts and stuff we find on the internet that says like, oh, you need this. It's like, well, we need this, and now we're going to do that, and now we learned how to use it and how to make it look good. And one of my favorite stories about the quality of the sound at Art Boutiki was when I was really disappointed with the way a promoter was handling sound at our place because they used to run their own sound and bring their own people. And I turned to my son, Dustin, who is basically both my right and left arm. And he's someone who doesn't get enough credit for Art Boutiki being what it is, but he's like a kid. He's barely out of high school at that point. And I say to him, you're the sound guy. Go learn sound. And he did. And he does it very well. And everyone follows in his example. And so I turned to him and said, you're the video guy, make it work. Here's the tools, figure it out. And he did. And he's really good. He's really good at what he does.
I'm curious, are you guys using OBS?
We are using OBS. We actually looked at all kinds of alternatives to OBS and realized that, wow, well, OBS is sort of ubiquitous for a reason. It actually does what it's supposed to do when you have the horsepower to run it. It's
right.
Like, I think a lot of people's frustrations with OBS stems from the fact that they're pulling out old laptops and trying to run it on there, which is, I'm going to admit right up, is the first thing I did.
Oh, us too.
Like, I got an old laptop. I don't even use this anymore. Ironically, it's the one I'm on right now. There were a lot of things that we discovered along the way, and made at least those proper investments in the gear. So
it turns out when you've got a bunch of scenes that it's all like trying to create in real time, you need a really fast computer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And we go. Our thing is a 5. I think we did one with 6, but I think we're really comfortable with 5 cameras, because when we have actually people on each camera, it's not just that we set them up. We have tripods with wheels on them, and we will move them around. And the guys, all the people like Dustin, who's the director, or whoever's directing, because one of our sound guys has also directed in the past. We'll sit there he'll be on a headset on a radio, and he'll go, hey, move camera 1, line up the drummer because the solo's coming up, whatever. And we will put one camera on stage. So often we use it, we call it the drum cam, but sometimes we put it behind a piano player if we have someone who's playing piano, so we can get that angle of them, that other angle. And so it's really a cool experience to watch one of these things, because in a lot of ways, and I tell people, I go, this is actually better in a lot of ways than the experience that you would be getting if you were sitting in the back row of the Art Boutiki, or even the middle of the room, or wherever, because the sound is being mixed and it's going straight into your ears if you got a headset on, or coming out your speakers in that pristine way that is just being mixed right for you. In the video, we're showing you stuff that you probably couldn't even see, like with the drum cam, or we're putting you up close and so you can see a guy's fingers as he's finger picking his guitar, or on a bass solo, and see how quickly his hands moving up and down the fretboard. And are really getting a good look at the singer and the effort that they're putting into what they're doing. So I'm really proud of those guys. I mean, I would love to sit here and take credit for it. I will to a certain extent, but really it's not about me. I always tell all those guys, is like I feel like I'm pretty much irrelevant to the whole process once the show goes, And then somebody sends like a panicked email about not being able to get into the stream, and I have to deal with them. And then these guys laugh and like, "You got the worst job. You have to deal with the customers." So, whatever.
I have in my Twitch chat, we have mods that just kick out the angry customers. That's how we roll here.
Yeah, our biggest thing is just that people over the course of the pandemic have just become accustomed to stuff. Oh, where do I look for it on YouTube?
Mm-hmm.
Or where do I look for it on Facebook? It's like, no, it's not there. It's on its own thing. You have to go there, and you're not going to see cat memes while we're having our show, because you're going to be there. And it's cool, because even though we don't get the numbers that maybe you get on Facebook or YouTube, it's like on Facebook, anything over 3 or 4 seconds is counted as a view. Whereas that, to me, that means somebody paused long enough to not want to watch, right?
Right.
But for us, on a 90-minute show, the average watch time is like 20 minutes. And that sounds short, but there are a lot of times where people who are using sort of poor internet connections or trying to pull this stuff in wirelessly, they may have to refresh their browser, and that might count as a new view in some cases. So we don't have like professional analytics on this thing yet, so I can't really tell how many times. I just know that sometimes we'll have way more views than we had tickets registered. So
that's definitely reconnects if the system's counting them that way.
Yeah.
So yeah. That's funny you should mention like having to explain to people that it's not on YouTube and Facebook. We've been trying to drag people kicking and screaming off of fucking Facebook since like 2017.
Yeah.
It's
what's even funny about that is that the people who complain the most about these things not being on Facebook or YouTube are the ones who complain the most about Facebook and YouTube. It's like, you're just complaining. You're just a complaining bunch of whiners. Just shut up and just follow the link. How hard is that?
Yeah.
Go to the link, log into your account, watch the show. How hard is that?
Right. Like we were trying to multicast to a bunch of stuff for a while, and then we realized that like until we like gained an audience somewhere, that was a stupid idea, because now you're going to get 2 people over here, 3 people over here, 6 people over here, and they're not all chatting with each other or whatever. They're not all in the same place. But then like getting people to just go to like a well-established streaming site, Twitch, has been like it's like been pulling teeth. Not like our growth has been good over here, but trying to get like, I'm just going to say it, the San Jose music scene off of Facebook has just been so hard.
Yeah, well, I think that we could go on endlessly about that. I mean, it's just, yeah. I mean, people was like, oh, I want to put this on Facebook. But like I said, they complain about Facebook. People, I don't even want to get into it. But
well, no, I mean, yeah. I want to be where the fans are, right? But the flip side of that is like we have this whole other thing that we built over here, so we're just going to be where they are actually, because they're going to show up for our stream, no matter what we do, right?
Right. Well, for me, it's like a case of with what we've set up. We're with a ticketing company called Passage, who has been an amazing partner to us. And if anybody's considering doing any kind of live streaming or live streaming, or they're a ticketing company, so they could do your ticketing as well as live streaming and the whole bit. They've really worked hard at the start of COVID to develop a system that was accessible and relatively easy to work with. Great people. I highly recommend them if you're thinking of doing a live streamed event. Even if you're just going to do one, just hook up with these guys. They're really good. But end of commercial.
That's funny though, because me and the media wench, my usual co-host for this, she's got her girls this week. Her girls are like too cute. I wouldn't stream instead of hanging out with her girls either. But we talked about that at like the very beginning. She had actually asked me, she's like, what if we could set this up for people and like make a little money doing it or whatever? And I was like, I thought like the whole thing was going to be gone in 3 months. And so we didn't do it,
Yeah. Well, I mean, the thing about it is that, like, again, why it's on Passage, why isn't it on Facebook? Why does it matter to us? Is with Passage, we have an ability. First of all, if I wanted to sell tickets to a show, I could. Sakura's farewell show was a ticketed event. We were charging the same amount that we would have charged for her live show, and we still got 100 people out for it. So, which was maybe less than we would have gotten, but for her, if we would have sold out our Boutiki for farewell show for her, we would have packed.
Everybody, oh my God, I love her. Everybody loves her.
Yeah. Oh, I would not even tell you how many people I've stuck into Art Boutiki just because I won't turn people away as long as there's an inch to stand in. But that's not the point. The point is that there's no way of knowing how many people bought a ticket and then have 4 or 5 people watching. So we don't know what the attendance was. But we have monetization tools. I have the ability to collect donations on the spot while people are watching the show. Without having to leave the show, which is right. Instead of going to a separate link, I can sell you merch while you're watching the show because there's a virtual merch table in the thing, and people can talk about it, point at it, say, push that button and buy a t-shirt or buy a CD or buy whatever. Stuff that you can't really do on Facebook or YouTube.
Certainly not. Twitch is pretty good about all that stuff. That would have, if you wouldn't have gone private, I think you guys would have ended up on Twitch because you could have set things up for subs only, so only some people subscribe to your channel can watch. You could figure you would have ended up here, but it sounds like what you ended up doing worked out really well for you. What I want to ask, before we get kind of to the end of the cutout interview part here,
sure,
is streaming the shows going to be something you're going to be doing going forward, like for all of your shows, for some of your shows, or do you think you'll end up abandoning it because it's a pretty big responsibility on top of all the other things that go with the venue?
We will not abandon it. That is for sure.
I mean, if y'all need help, I'm cheap, and you can pay me in beer.
Okay, that check your email later. No. No, definitely we're not abandoning streaming. We put too much work into it. We put too much money into it. And to be honest with you, and this may disappoint a lot of people, if they hear it on a personal level, I actually like it better than I don't like it better than actually having people in the place. Obviously, we want people in the place, but it is not. I think about it. I think about the nights where we've had 3 or 4 or sometimes even 5 bands, and how exhausting that is. And in a night, and just keep switching people out, and things go wrong, or whatever. Or I've had to we don't sell hard liquor at our Boutiki, but there is a business right across the street from us that does, and people will go over there and get liquored up and then come back to our place, and then I have to deal with them because it's like, no, you can't be in here when you're that drunk. I'm sorry. And I don't miss dealing with that. I don't miss dealing with backed up toilets. I mean, that just happens, but I don't miss dealing with unruly people, and I don't miss certain aspects of running the live show. I do like it when people are there. I do like it when people are buying beer. I do like it when people are having a good time, because in essence, entertaining people and providing people a platform to do their art from, that's very gratifying. It's very satisfying to me. What we've managed to do with live streaming is to really curate it. Like I was mentioning before, we can take 30 minutes and do a sound check, and then not have to set up a drum kit, and it doesn't have to move, ever during the night. Or we've got everybody dialed in, and they go up there and they're performing, and they're producing something special. I feel, at least. So I think that what we're going to continue to do, I haven't really sat down and thought about it. I probably should have. I kind of saw this, COVID thing kind of dragging out further than it looks like it's going to to drag out.
Fingers
But
crossed.
but there's a lot of talk about April 15th and you can have indoor events again. But when you drill down into it, it's like it basically the county gets to decide. And we in Santa Clara County, we're living in one of the most restrictive counties in the country. It's the first county that put out a shelter in place. It's a county that is very, very fine happy. They have issued, I think in their article I was reading, almost $5 million worth of fines to businesses since the start of COVID. And, I know for a fact, having been talked to by the folks from the county that come around and look at what we're doing, that if you're getting fined, that means you've made a bunch of mistakes and you haven't fixed them, So it's not like I have that much sympathy, but
or the mistake was egregious, right? The thing they saw when they walked in was like egregious, like an egregious mistake.
Oh yeah, if somebody walked in and we have a live stream schedule and I had people packed in there shoulder to shoulder and nobody was wearing a mask, yeah, you just like that's good. The thing about it is that to me there's no profit in doing that, because you get caught doing that and you could lose your business license, you could lose your liquor license, you could lose your environmental health permits, you could lose everything. For what? I get it, because I'm losing money right and left, right?
Don't worry, you're in the big time now. You've been on Local Love.
Well, so the point is, I've been waiting my whole life for this. But the point is that this is a county that is not going to just let things snap back to normal at the drop of a hat, and it's like, I've talked to other venue operators and I've talked to bookers who have worked with other venue operators around the country, and like even a place like New Orleans, where live music is the thing that makes them work there. Small clubs are dealing with capacity limits that some venue owners there just say, not worth it. Not worth it. And it's like, my business was not built to make money at 25 or 40% capacity. And it's not like I've never had a crappily attended event at our Boutiki. Everybody has shitty shows. Everybody does. But you don't plan on that. It just happens. It's like, whoa, 10 people came out tonight. You guys suck, or something. Or I suck. I have no idea. Or the Super Bowl was on, or what have you. That shit happens. So, but as a matter of course, as a matter of going forward, if the thing is like, oh, I'm not going to move all that live stream stuff out of the way, because if you were to walk into our Boutiki today, you would see it would be almost impossible for us to have any meaningful audience in that spot. I'm not moving that out of the way for 20 people in the audience.
Right.
That doesn't make any sense,
And so, when you can open up for real, there's a financial incentive to properly wire everything and get everything set up, because it's time to go.
Right. And we'll have a little bit of time. Honestly, I'm one of those kind of negative Nancy's. I don't feel we're anywhere close to out of the woods on this thing yet. And one of the things that where I take kind of a pragmatic view, and I think a lot of people don't really get. But one of the things that the reason that the bar and the indoor music thing is being looked at in the way it is that early on in the pandemic in the state of New York, the CDC basically pointed to 3 clubs that had club shows, right? And they were super spreader events. This is, of course, before anybody knew what was going on. And it's like, but he was like, we could contact trace back to those clubs and say one guy, and it's like the Stand, one guy coughing in the back of the theater infected everybody. And then it spread like wildfire through a town where everybody's packed on top of everybody. And so that's a different complication. But even just recently, it's February, a couple of months ago, there was a bar opening, I think it was in Illinois, where they had I can't remember what the total attendance was, but I don't even know if it was in Illinois, so I don't quote me on that. But there was a bar opening, and it was somewhere in the Midwest, and it was a grand opening, and they had a bunch of people in there, and they were not really socially distant, and some people refused to wear masks, and so it became a spreader event of its own that was directly tied to the closure of a school with 600 people, right? So this thing is still very much with us. You know, we got people who don't want to get vaccinated. We've got people who don't want to wear masks. I don't want to.
We do the whole other rest of our content about those people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's just sort of like, one of the things I read about the thing, like, again, everyone's talking about, April 15th, you can do indoor events. It's like, well, one of the things about the indoor events is that you can go to 50% capacity if everyone has a negative COVID test or has been vaccinated. Who's going to do that? Who's going to be the one at the door and say, show me your negative COVID test? I'm not going to do that. The place is too small. It's like, for what? So I could put 40 people in there and lose that much money? And then what? It doesn't make any sense. So going back to your original question, live streaming is going to be a thing for us for a while. One of the things that I was kind of tossing around, and nobody else is really in the art boutique has really had an opportunity to chime in on what they think. But one of the things that I would like to do is to kind of go into a supper club type of thing where we're going to have one band play, one band, not 3, not 4, not 5, but one band is going to play, and you can come in and be like at the Kumbwa in Santa Cruz, where they have one band play. They might do 2 shows in the night or whatever, but people come in and we're going to have a dinner service. If you want to eat, fine. Otherwise, show up when the doors open. And then that's the way we'll do things. And it might be more expensive, but I don't have an answer, going forward, other than to know that we put too much money and too much time and put out too good of a product to step away from the online thing.
Yeah, I am. My best case scenario hope for myself in all this is that July or August bike party happens in some way, and I get to go out there with a fucking mask on and play at that fucking Monopoly board on Discovery Meadow, and just rock the Renegade Urban Dance Floor. And that's like the best case scenario. I don't see like indoor packed venues till like the first of 2022.
Well, yeah, and actually, I got an email the other day from a booking company that I work with on the regular, and that's a very, I would say, has sent us a fair amount of decent sized jazz shows, and they book a lot of people who are known in that world, and the guys, he says, like, well, what's your prospect for surviving? Because I have a lot of stuff that we'd like to be able to send you. And I was like, dude, where have you been for a year? That was my first thought, but I didn't say that to him. And I just kind of like, well, this is what we're looking at. And so he just emailed me back here a couple hours before this started. I saw his email. It was very kind. He's like, even professional bookers are not looking at any time in 2021 to send people out on tour, because going into a limited capacity situation doesn't make any sense to them. Right. I mean, I even told him, I go like, hey, I would be happy to consider anything you sent to me, but if anything involves a guarantee, you're not going to get it. You're just not going to get it. And it's like, I hate this to say, from this point going forward, everybody's a ticket split, because some people, they need a guarantee. And I get that we do on occasion pay guarantees to performers when I know what the outcome will be, or can predict what the outcome will be. It's just like, we get a band through that's capable of selling out, 150 seats at $40 a ticket. I can easily guarantee them $2,000, and it sounds like a lot, but it really isn't, but so, yeah, I mean, no one is thinking about, anything for 2021. I think it's still out the window. So we're going to be streaming for as long as we can stay there, because ultimately my bigger concern about people declaring the game over, the pandemic's done, COVID's over, everything is going back to normal. Do you know what going back to normal means? I'm going to have to fork out a lot of money that I owe my landlord.
Nope.
I'd have
No
to fork
kidding.
out a lot of money that I owe PG&E, and that will, the end of the pandemic is a bigger threat to me as a business person than the start of it was. Right? The going back to normal, no one's thought about the parachute. No one's thought about the crash landing, and it's like, you could see an upheaval in the service in the service part of the world, restaurants, bars, venues, clubs, small ones, mom and pop places. And there's this grant that's out there, the Shuttered Venue Operators Grant, $15 billion that was earmarked by the federal government to go to shuttered venues, right? And when I first heard about it, and people were talking about it because it was all part of the Save Our Stages thing, the National Independent Venue Association, NEVA, was a huge thing of this thing. As they started legislating this thing through Congress and stuff like that, they started expanding upon, and that's one of the reasons why the money got so big, because it's like, it's not just about venues, it's not just about community theater, it's not just about that kind of thing. Now we're talking about zoos, we're talking about movie theaters, we're talking about producers, like all this whole thing has gotten huge, because now it's like when they say that the cap that you can get is $10 million, that's a lot of money, right? No small venue is going to fucking be asking for $10 million, right? No one's going to get $10 million. But they have made this thing, and I sat in on a webinar on this grant process, and I'm hoping to God that it changes, because I think a lot of mom and pop places are just going to say, fuck this noise and fuck the government, and we don't need this shit, because, and notice now I'm swearing. But
You're in the right venue. This is the shit we like here.
Yeah,
the angry leftists in my chat are starting to fucking mill about. They're starting to hear this shit.
You know what? I was trying to get into the chat here on my phone, and I'm just whatever. I'm old. So, but at any rate, going back to the thing that was getting me swearing, is just like they are making this thing so difficult to navigate. No venue of my size has that clean a set of books. Nobody does. And it's not even like I'm saying, oh, we cheat. We're not saying that we cheat. It's just that, you know what? Half these guys are just doing their books on fucking QuickBooks and entering in just stuff into random categories because they don't really understand them. And it's like, if you can't prove that you've got a viable business, they don't want to give you any money. And I get that. And to me, I understand that to a certain extent, because they don't want to just toss money out to everybody. But to me, it should have just been, were you in business? How long have you been in business? If we give you a grant for this, how are you going to spend the money? And then show us the receipts. That's all that needs to be done. That's all that needs to be done, in my opinion. Even worse is that even that, to me, is obscene when you consider the fact that at the outset of the pandemic, in the first stimulus packages that were passed, there were billions of dollars that were set aside for banks and airlines and other big companies that were given out with almost zero oversight.
Isn't that weird that they give money to the bank like you don't need your bank anymore during a pandemic? That's such a weird place to put the money. The bank is not suffering during the pandemic. You fucking are still doing business with your bank. It's how you buy things on fucking Instacart.
Right. Exactly. Whatever.
Weird thing.
The airlines I get.
Yeah, you can understand that.
Yeah, the airlines I get. It's like those guys, I'm not that I'm going to have a shit ton of sympathy for United Airlines or anyone like that.
We were going to have a cry-in for the plight of United Airlines a little bit later.
For
UAL,
here for that? Yeah. I missed that. I didn't get the memo on that one. But yeah, the airlines I get, but the banks, Are you kidding me?
Well, the what happens here is like, and it's like a story that we can bring back to San Jose a little bit too. Like entertainment gets the short end of the stick when people are starting to give money out, right? Like when people are starting to give grants out, trying to help businesses and innovation. Like entertainment tends to get the short end of the stick in all this.
Very much so, and it's actually kind of interesting because in a lot of ways, San Jose is actually way ahead of other places in terms of their attitudes towards the arts. When a few years ago, I got there are a lot of grants that are there that are available through, and I'm spacing on the city's arm for doing that, but they have art. They actually, it's one of the few cities that actually has a grant process for businesses other than nonprofits, because they'll dole out money to nonprofits all day long. It's like, oh, you're a nonprofit. And they're like, why are they better than me? They're not better than me, but whatever. We got an $8,000 grant once to put on a comic book convention in downtown. So from the city of San Jose, it was a grant with almost zero oversight. Just all I had to show was like, what was your overall budget for the event? Oh, and that's $8,000 went for that, and that was the end of it. You know.
Did you throw a comic book convention?
Yeah, I called the Alternative Press Expo. It actually is one that I threw years ago that I took back from Comic-Con, or they gave back because they just didn't want it anymore. But yeah, I put it on, and it was in downtown, and probably I should have put it on in a high school gym, would have been better. But I just had this whole idea of building out this comics and music festival, and I was overmatched. My ideas were bigger than my ability to handle them.
I've been there.
The other thing that's really interesting about the city of San Jose is that actually they have almost zero, permitting process for live music in terms of a business holding live music. Now, the things that they're looking at is like, are you selling liquor? Are you open till past midnight? And those are the things that trigger them, and they want to make sure that you're running a decent business. But it's like when I moved from downtown to Ray Street, and I went to the planning department, and I said, tell me, before I even signed the lease, I go, you're gonna have to tell me what the permitting process is for me to have live music. And she's like, are you gonna be open past midnight? She asked me basically 4 questions. Are you gonna be open past midnight? No. Is your capacity over 200? No. And, I was not lying. It's not that we haven't had more than 200 people in there, but that's official capacity of that place is actually pretty small. And, you're going to serve food. What's your liquor license size? Is like, you're small potatoes. We just doesn't really, we want the bands in the corner. We want places to have live. We want the place to be vibrant, because at the time, 8 years ago, you had Twitter picking up stakes and moving to San Francisco instead of coming to San Jose. You had this tremendous drain of tech companies that were leaving the area, and one of the reasons they were leaving,
Soma in San Francisco, the South Market area.
Right. And one of the reasons they're leaving is because the employees say, we want to go somewhere where there's something to do. If I'm going to live here, I want to be able to go out at night. I want to go see a band. I want to have, they want coffee shops. They want museums. They want art galleries. They want this and they want that. It's like now everybody's staying the fuck home. And it's like suddenly all these people that wanted to go out every night never want to leave the house. So, that's a whole different thing.
So Dan, I'm not even thinking about getting rid of you, but I want to fucking play another tune and invite the rest of the panel on to talk to you, ask you some questions, if that's okay. I think we'll get Juan Maserati from the Rebels Camp and John Renna probably up in here, maybe even the Media Wench.
Okay.
Cool.
Yeah.
So I know Periscope is playing at your spot in a week, like next week, because I know there are guests next week.
Not next week. I think they're playing the week after.
Oh.
Hang on a second. I could look.
Yeah, what's the date on that? We could promote that show for our friends.
Let me find out, and I will. Hang on a second. I'm glad I had this here. Sheets. So Periscope is the 24th of April.
It's April 24th at the Art Boutiki.
April
This song's called Control Image, and we'll be right back.
Okay.
the suits and ties. Pay them no mind, they would never do us harm.